like Tord, Reklev, those level of players. But this time, Jon went through Azul in the top 8 and maybe has finally broken down a barrier. Whew, lots on the line here. I'm sure nerves for both players. This is the highest pressure situation. Finals of a regional championship. Tons of prizes on the line. We'll see which player takes this one home.
Yeah, these players also came up the same year in the seniors division. So we have a finals of 2 players at the same age. Let's see if this is going to be a great one. Here we go, Portland Regional Championship Finals. Let's get things underway as come phase for both players. Who will be going first? Sam starting action off, and it will just be a flower selecting. Looking through the deck to see the options. Now, Path to Peak, a great card in a lot of matchups, but not too relevant here in this mirror.
Yeah, don't see a Battle VIP pass just yet. But there is a Nest Ball and some cards to play with for Sam. So, yeah, just going to be trying to get some cards into the Lost Zone. Of course, this is a mirror match. I don't believe they're playing exactly the same deck list, but, I mean, pretty close. We're going to see a lot of the same strategies back and forth, trying to react to each other's game plan. Some hand disruption as we get later into the game. These should be some good ones.
Jet Energy hitting the Lost Zone. Seeing if there's anything else that can be played down. They've been considering whether or not to put Giratina V into play. Potentially, we are going to see Nest Ball come down, so this will be Sam's first opportunity to check the deck, see what cards are available. Options are there. It's a smart choice for these players, taking notes, wanting to write down what's available in terms of prize cards. But as we saw before, there's nothing really too relevant in terms of what's prized for both of these players, so I think we're going to have a great match here.
Yeah, Ethan, you think this is one of the matchups where going second is advantageous? I mean, being able to get that first attack off with the Cramorant, is that a difference maker here?
See, I sort of thought about that originally. I think there's advantages to going second both ways. You can, of course, go aggressive with Cramorant, but you get into sort of this weird situation where Cramorant's great at taking the first prize, but then Cramorant knocks out the other Cramorant, and then it sort of becomes this cat and mouse game. I think the big thing for both these players is really the setup, and more importantly, it's who goes down to those 3 prize cards first, because Roxanne is a huge card in a matchup like this where both decks are trying to capitalize on falling behind while being able to apply attacking pressure. So I think if you do go second, you do have a big opportunity. If you have Colress's Experiment, if you can dig through your deck and not necessarily rely on Abyss Seeking, you're in a really good spot. However, if you don't do that, it's a little bit tough.
One big difference for these 2 players. So there's no Jirachi for either player, so Sableye Lost Mine will be in play at any point. But Sam actually does not play Manaphy. So we could see Radiant Greninja be a big attacker for Jon in this matchup. Jon does have the Manaphy, so can block that Moonlight Shuriken. That can be a devastating swing in these kinds of matchups where you're able to knock out 2 of your opponent's Comfey in one turn, take a multi-prize turn. So we'll have to keep our eye on that as the game progresses. What do you think about that? No Manaphy for Sam.
It's interesting. I think for Sam, benching double Comfey without Manaphy is a little bit risky. You can sort of play the game out sometimes with just relying more off of Abyss Seeking. But listen, Sam is here in the finals and I'm not, so we'll see how things progress. Excellent start here for Jon. Has, I think, Colress's Experiment in the hand. There's a Battle VIP pass right away.
Man, this finals match is so exciting. The table's shaking. You can feel the energy in the room.
Giratina's coming into play, everybody. Be careful. Watch out.
Yeah, great start here from Jon so far. Battle VIP pass. That's the card you want on your first turn. Grab some basic Pokemon out of your deck. And we'll see what Jon's preferred strategy here is in the beginning. Can go for that Cramorant if you're able to get 4 cards into the Lost Zone. Get the first knockout. And then yeah, we'll go from there. These games do have a lot of interesting back and forth. It's not, as straightforward as, oh, I attacked first, so I win. There's going to be lots of disruption, lots of trying to play around what your opponent is trying to do. Yeah, I can't wait for the game to get to, like the more exciting stages. We kind of go through the motions in the beginning. Your first checkpoint is, do I attack on the first turn? And then does my opponent respond from there? And then things get a little weird.
Speaking of attacking on the first turn, Jon deciding to grab that Cramorant. We'll grab the Giratina V as well. I think the choice here for Jon is, or rather, it's an interesting choice because usually if you're trying to look for a lot of basic Pokemon here, sometimes it's better to just play the Colress's Experiment first, see your 5 cards, and then from there be like, okay, I can go for double VIP pass, or I can find all these Pokemon out. But another concern, too, is if you don't grab these one-of copies like Cramorant out and you're forced off of Colress's Experiment to see that card, it's an instant keep. You don't really have a lot of flexibility. So here we go. 5 cards. And this is a little bit tough here, though, for Jon because these are all very important cards. So if there's going to be some valuable resources that have to be put away, something like that Water Energy, there's only 2 copies of Water Energy in the deck. So if you put that away, or rather there's 3 in Jon's deck, Sam is only playing the 2 copies of Water Energy. So I think this is just a choice of Jon, is you kind of got to already look ahead and see what attackers do I want to use. And if Jon does value that Radiant Greninja, I mean, you have to keep that Water Energy. I mean, we sort of saw the prize cards. There are no Water Energy in the prizes, so that's nothing to be too concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the decisions with Lost Zone decks get very challenging. Trying to figure out how many resources can I throw away. You got to remember what energy are in my prize cards. Jon deciding, yeah, I'm going to keep the Water Energy here. And now, yeah, another tough choice. Do have the Manaphy. There are some versions of these Giratina VSTAR decks that don't run Water Energy. It's pretty rare these days, I think.
Yeah.
But you could take the risk and be like, maybe they're running the no water version.
Yeah, and with
Jon's just going to say, nah, let's play it safe, make sure my opponent can't get that advantage with the Moonlight Shuriken.
Another tough choice as well. You're forced to put an energy into the Lost Zone. I mean, at this point, with Sam being on stream, I'm sure somebody has probably informed him that, yeah, your opponent's got Water Energy in their deck to be ready. That does put away Water Energy. That means that with one in the discard pile, something like Super Rod is going to have to be played.
Do you have a switch?
I don't think there's... No, nothing. Just going to pass the turn over. Not even anything like an Abyss Seeking being used to fuel this Lost Zone up. And action's on Sam, but I'm not sure that Sam has something like Colress's Experiment yet to start the turn. Will be the Jet Energy kept, it seems. Rather does have that in the hand. Roxanne going to the Lost Zone. And here we go, Escape Rope. So first choices for Jon. Going to put that Comfey up into the active. These are a pretty big 2 cards off this Flower Selecting. Something like Colress's Experiment, ways to fuel the Lost Zone a little bit more. And I'm not sure. I feel like if you have Colress, maybe you slam it down there off of those 2 cards from Flower Selecting. And now it's another tough choice here for Sam. With Jon having 4 cards in the Lost Zone, you really can't safely use Abyss Seeking. If something like 1 more Flower Selecting or Colress's Experiment will put you in a tough spot. And yeah, it's going to be another Comfey coming down to the bench. And Flower Selecting being used for a 3rd time this turn. Do we see some sort of supporter card? And you see on Sam's face, it's just not there. And that might not cut it here, Kyle.
I don't know if there's access. No, there's access to nothing. Both players deciding to take it slow and be kind to each other in the early goings of this game. One other thing to call out, both players, their only stadium card is Path to the Peak, and neither player uses Lost Vacuum. So that will be stuck in play for the entirety of the game. That means the Radiant Greninja on Sam's side will not be using concealed cards at all during this game. Back to Jon. Interesting decisions again on another Colress's Experiment. Should be getting up to 7 cards in the Lost Zone in this turn. This would be a huge opening for, well, one thing to note is Jon did fill his bench. So does not have a way to put down like Radiant Greninja. Can't go for Sableye. Can be dangerous to kind of bench lock yourself in these kinds of matchups. We'll see if that. We'll see if Jon comes to regret that in the future turns.
And speaking of this matchup too, I mean, it's kind of tough. Taking prize cards is good, but how can cards like Counter Catcher really punish players in this matchup for maybe getting aggressive and taking prize cards before their opponent?
Yeah, I mean, once you take 1 prize card, your opponent can Counter Catcher, go after your Giratina VSTAR, and kind of initiate a race of I'm taking 2 prize cards every time you're taking 1, or you've taken 1 and I'm going to take mine in chunks of 2. and maybe win the game a little faster. At the same time, I mean, once you've kind of locked your bench like this, you kind of have to be the one to make the first move.
Yeah, and speaking of locking bench, too, Sam is also in a really tough spot with how this board is playing. That Radiant Greninja, now that Manaphy's in play, is sitting there pretty much doing nothing. Its ability shut off by Path to the Peak, and there's only one more bench slot for a Pokemon. If you don't bench another Giratina V, then that race, like you talked about, Jon can just take the 2 prizes and not even be worried about 2 prizes back. But Jon will open that bench space up, take the first prize cards in this matchup, spit innocently. And there it is, Colress's Experiment. It's at the cost of getting rid of Mirage Gate. Not a card you really want to willingly get rid of, but it's worth the trade-off.
We could play the game now.
It's true. Listen, playing the game is better if it means you have to get rid of a Mirage Gate. That's a fine trade, but it's just more energy cards and things that, if you're Sam here, this is a big opportunity now that you're going to be potentially at 7 cards in the Lost Zone to maybe counter Catcher and start that race. But even then, it's just, can you get that second Lost Impact or Star Requiem up if you're taking those first prize cards? And with how little Colress's Experiment and Dig has really been happening on Sam's side, I'm not sure if that's possible. So I think there's like all the remaining Psychic Energy and Grass Energy, I think, are in Sam's hand in this position. And that's bad, not only because they're not cards that are going to help you draw or fill your board, but you can also not Mirage Gate those energy cards that they're not in your deck to be Mirage Gated.
This, we got 2 Giratina VSTAR decks in the finals, Ethan.
How did this happen, Kyle? How do we let this happen?
This is peak performance right here.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, sometimes this happens. This is typically not how the matchup plays out, I don't think. But Sam going to try to find some way out of this. We do see the counter catcher in hand. Just going to go for another flower selecting. The other awkward thing, only 8 in the Lost Zone. If you're going to get to 10, you would need to bench a 3rd Comfey. So that means we're not going to see like a Sableye Lost Mine this turn. Just another pass. What is going on? These decks are supposed to be like aggressive and attacking quickly.
Nope, it was all a lie, Kyle. It was all a lie. So action's back on Jon. I mean, we've seen, I would not count Sam out of this at all. Still plenty of ways to come back in this matchup. As you mentioned, Jon is still bench locked, so there's no way to bench something like Sableye or potentially even get down another Giratina. It's just going to be the Mirage Gate. An interesting choice for Jon. Might not have information of how powerful Radiant Greninja could be in this position, as we see Water Energy is the choice off of this Mirage Gate. There is something like a Grass Energy in hand. I mean, this is another situation where we talk about using Mirage Gate is great to thin these energies out so you don't draw into them, but there is that risk that if you're not using it to attack, one of these Giratina V-Stars can be knocked out, and so does their energy being removed out of play. But Jon's going to kind of take this position and say, you know what? I've got enough energy in here. I'm just going to power up both of my Giratina V-Star, and if you knock one of them out, I've got the other one here ready to hit you back super hard.
Yeah, you can run out of resources that way, though. You only have so much energy, so many Mirage Gates to use. So that's where these games can get a little weird.
Yeah.
Commit too many resources to one Pokemon, gets knocked out. Do you have enough to close out the game? See what Jon has planned. Gonna fully power that one Giratina V-Star. If we see a boss's orders this turn and go for a 2-prize knockout, could be strong. It's also really hard for Jon to get a read on how strong Sam's hand is. He's just done nothing. He doesn't know. Or are you just sitting there like one card short of something great? So it's hard to know how aggressive to even be here. But we do see boss's orders off of the Pokegear 3.0. Ethan, I got to tell you, Pokegear 3.0 has been around for over a decade. They have not improved the technology. It still only looks at the top 7, but hey, it's good enough.
No new models at all. It's just the same old Pokegear 3.0. And I love this play from Jon, going aggressive, going after the Giratina V, and taking the 2-prize knockout with Lost Impact. However, this play is weird when Jon's pushing himself to odd prize cards as well as getting rid of a huge amount of resources. Because Jon's going down to 3, Sam can now play something like the Roxanne, disrupt Jon's hand.
Two Water Energy gone as well, so no Radiant Greninja option anymore.
So here we go. There is that Roxanne in the hand and the Giratina VSTAR. Now, Jon smartly deciding to keep energy on the bench Giratina VSTAR, but Sam could potentially play something like the counter catcher and go after these 2 energy. I mean, they're pretty much almost identical, but that 1 energy does matter. It is super important.
Yep, huge turn for Sam. The prize card count does not tell the story in this matchup all the time.
Yeah, I feel like if you're in Jon's position there, I think you're maybe more than okay to just take the knockout with Cramorant, and then from there, if you're going to make this big play where you're trying to go Lost Impact back and forth, you at least are just 1 knockout away. In this position, even if Jon finds a great hand off of this Roxanne, he can't win the game the next turn, and that could open up another option for Sam to claw back in. Now the bench spaces are opened. Lost Mine is a potential. Cramorant hasn't been played yet. So these are going to be a big 2 cards here for Jon. Sam will finally get to see some more cards, maybe get down another Giratina V for this sort of back and forth race like you talked about, where these Giratinas now are swinging back and forth into each other. There's perfect math there, 280 HP and 280 damage with Lost Mine. And there's that Giratina.
Yeah, Sam crucially finds another Giratina V. You know, if Jon, all he needs is a Psychic Energy next turn to use Star Requiem and take out this Giratina V-Star that's in the active, but this is a big moment. You know, you see a Psychic Energy in the Lost Zone, you see one in the discard pile. It's not trivial to find this 1 Psychic Energy to use this V-Star power and score the knockout. And if you're Jon and you miss here, I think you're in some trouble.
Yeah, and there's only 1 Mirage Gate left. And what's also sort of iffy about Jon going to 3 prize cards instead of maybe being even at 4 is Counter Catcher is a card that's still active for Sam. And Sam does play how many copies of this Counter Catcher? There is just the 1, so it's actually not going to be as much. It was used there to get rid of that Psychic Energy, but I mean, these are things that you've got to kind of be aware of in this situation because there's always potentials. See if this risk pays off for Jon. We'll play this Nest Ball to give himself as good outs as possible, but I don't know if these other 2 cards are really cutting it. I think there's just a Comfey and a Path to the Peak in the hand, and with no way to retreat this Comfey, with no switching cards at hand, no supporter cards, it's at the mercy of this Flower Selecting to see what Jon can put together this turn. So here we go. 2 cards off Flower Selecting. What is it? It's a Battle Pass. That's an easy choice to throw to the Lost Zone, but what was the card that was kept? It's an Escape Rope. So now Sam presented with a question, what do you switch into here?
Answer right there, Giratina V.
There you go.
Yeah, it's way too risky, I think, to send up a single prize Pokemon because Cramorant could just knock it out. And then, obviously, 1 Giratina V-Star falls and you lose. It can be awkward if you don't have a switching card in your hand, but it looks like Sam has a Jet Energy and a switch card. So easy decision, sending out a Pokemon that is not going to give up a prize card here. And, yeah, what looked like Jon had the advantage at the beginning, starting to slip away a bit.
Yeah, first player to enter Roxanne range really feels what it's like to be Roxanne when you've been playing Roxanne on your opponent the entire day. And I mean, there is a Grass Energy, but speaking of resources, there's 3 energy cards in the Lost Zone. 3 Mirage Gates have already been expanded on Jon's side, and it's just going to be a pass over to Sam. So this is a big opportunity. If Sam can find one of those 2 Boss's Orders available, Sam can be the one to take the prize lead, go down to just 2 prize cards left, put himself in a winning position. Can still dig through the deck a little bit, has Flower Selecting at his disposal. Nice card to get rid of. Don't need that Path to the Peak. I don't know what happened there. Maybe some technical stuff, but our players are staying focused and staying alert.
Yeah, this situation still is a bit awkward, though. I think if you're Sam, you don't want to take a single prize knockout here. You would like to just knock out a Giratina V-Star and a Giratina V, and that to be the game. So if you don't have a Boss's Orders and a way to take a 2-prize knockout here, you might pass. I feel like we've seen more passing than attacking in this game.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it honestly might just be leaving something like Greninja in the active that can't be knocked out by Cramorant, because Jon would love to take a 1-prize knockout here and put himself 1 knockout away. So,
or even like throw the Jet Energy on the Giratina V and Abyss Seeking.
It's kind of risky then, because then if you get Star Requiem, then Sableye, right, can just take the knockout that way. So it is interesting regardless of how it plays out. But yes, it definitely would still be a better option than taking the knockout. This is an interesting play here from Sam, putting Sableye onto the board. Now, we could see something like Lost Mine, spread some damage counters around, and maybe set up for a 2-prize turn later down the line. It is going to be that. We'll see the switch card go into the Sableye. There is that Psychic Energy in hand, pretty much inviting Jon to potentially take a knockout with this Cramorant. I'll be curious to see where this damage goes. I've seen lots of players sort of explain like 7 and 5 in terms of damage counters. How would you like to see that
Knocking out
here?
the Cramorant.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Taking away that easy knockout option that's a heads-up play. And now Jon's going to be under pressure to find some sort of response here. Last turn didn't have anything. Are we relying on this flower selecting once again?
Did top deck the Psychic Energy for turn, but it's a little too late at this point. That Giratina V was an easy prime target to be knocked out by something like Star Requiem, but...
Well, and the choices off this are painful. It's Sableye and Switch. You would like to have both of those. Sableye would be a great response in this situation, but you can only take one of these cards. And given the situation, it's probably got to be Switch. You got to switch into the other Comfey and hope for something good.
Sam has entered Roxanne range, so it's probably your only way to really keep yourself in this matchup at this point. And Jon understands the risk factor, keeping the switch, and I think it's going to come down to this, Kyle. We could see potentially one more flower selecting if there is one more in the hand. Here we go, 2 cards. What is there? It's a Jet Energy. It's not the worst card. It means you can jet this Comfey and still have an option with the Mirage Gate, but I think we're doing our max here. Flowers have all gathered together. Here we go. Picking out the best one. That's what you want to hear if you're Jon. 2 more cards. What do we see off the top?
How about another Jet Energy?
2 more switching cards. And now there's no attackers available. Only these Giratina VSTAR. There's no way you can expand the resources to attacking here. There is the switch in the Psychic Energy, but I mean, you really can't Star Requiem the Sableye because you're just going to get lost impacted back. And here's a big opportunity and a big top deck there for Sam. Finds Boss's Orders off the top of the deck. But is there a way, now that the Psychic Energy is on this Sableye, with 2 in the Lost Zone, there's only 1 more left in the deck, and I'm not sure that that is available. This is getting super close down to the wire here, Kyle.
Yeah, there's some interesting choices to be made here. If you Lost Mine, take a knockout on one low HP Pokemon and set up another one, you're threatening the game in 2 different ways. You set up one more Lost Mine, wins the game, or just knocking out a Giratina V, that wins the game as well. So I have to imagine we'll see another Lost Mine here. You could take a riskier line where you just put 6 damage counters on like a Manaphy and a Comfey and say, okay, if I Lost Mine one more time, I get a 3-prize turn and I win the game. That one can backfire. So we'll see what Sam decides to do. I have to imagine we'll see Lost Mine, but where do the damage counters go?
You can still use flower selecting. Take a look at 2 cards. It's going to be Colress, so that had to be a really...
Tough choice.
Yeah, tough choice there. It wasn't Colress. It's better than Colress. Just another Colress. 2 Colresses. maybe 2 Colresses isn't great here, though, for Sam, because one's got to go.
Ooh, Boss's Orders, huge here as well. That'll make things even more difficult for Jon, having that hefty retreat cost Pokemon stuck in the active spot.
I'll Lost Mine, 7 here.
1 Comfey is going to go down, and then we'll see 2 more Pokemon, or at least 1 more setup to be knocked out on the next turn.
Yeah, it's weird. I'd love to see the rest of the damage counters be placed on Manaphy, since it's a Pokemon that doesn't benefit from something like Switch Cart.
Yes.
But it's just going to be putting 2 damage counters on all of these Pokemon, saying, listen, if you've got 1 Switch Cart, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to be able to take knockouts on all these remaining Pokemon. And here we go. Sam has entered into not a checkmate board, but a really, really strong board. 2 different ways to win the game. Star Requiem V-Star power has yet to be used, and Lost Mine is another potential. Now, Jon does have the switch that was taken from those previous 3 flower selecting abilities. The question here is, what attack can you even use? Your Cramorant's gone in the discard pile. You've already burned a Sableye. And another incredibly tough choice. The only remaining card of a copy of Super Rod and Roxanne, both cards that you'd love to play this turn. But if you're not playing Super Rod, then what is your attacker of choice? And if you're not playing Roxanne, then you've got to assume your opponent has it. They just played Colress last turn. And it is going to be the Roxanne chosen instead of the Super Rod.
Yeah, I mean, you can attack with Giratina VSTAR. Your opponent still needs to find a Psychic Energy to win.
Yeah, but that's such a... I mean, I guess that's all you can do here if you're Jon. It's not a great out to play to, but...
I mean, if you don't knock out this Sableye, you just lose immediately.
Yeah.
You got to do something.
It's tough. I didn't know there was a Colress's experiment there either, so... Just valuing that disruption aspect, it seems, over potentially... Yeah, I guess just valuing that. And I think this is a smart play the more I think about this. You're going to start Requiem, and you're going to pretty much put your opponent on 3 cards to work with, right? You need to find either the Psychic Energy just straight off those 2 cards, or you need to find a pivoting card and a Psychic Energy. So here we go. Roxanne on Jon's side being played, so Sam will feel the pain of what he instilled upon Jon a few turns ago. And now Sam put in a position where he's got to clutch up off these 2 cards. Jon still needs to find a pretty sizable card. I didn't realize the Psychic Energy didn't come down onto this Giratina V. Is there a way to pivot out of the active?
Got the Mirage Gate.
But I don't know if there's energy cards available at this point.
Yeah,
We're
I think
going to
there's
see
one
here with this
grass
Nest
left.
Ball. Oh, there is.
And a Jet.
There is a Jet Energy, so that means after this Star Requiem, the Jet Energy will be the only out available in the deck to allow this Giratina V-Star to attack.
I think there was an energy in the prize cards.
It's at the top, though, the top 2, so I don't know if that will be one of the cards drawn. I don't think it will, with Jon still being at 3 prize cards.
I'm going back in, sorry.
So that card might be locked away for the rest of the game.
Yeah, so it looks like Jon will get the knockout here. Go down to 2 prize cards, and then it's a simple question. Does Sam find a Psychic Energy to use Star Requiem to win the game? If you're Jon, this is all you got left. I mean, you don't love doing this, but it's not over by any means. So here we go. This is going to be V-Star power, knock out that Sableye, and does Sam have a Psychic Energy to win the game?
Mirage Gate off the top. Is there 2 energy available? There's the water and the Psychic Energy, and that will be what Sam needs to Star Requiem this Giratina V-Star. What a back and forth game, but Sam is going up 1-0 here in this final match.
Yep. Roxanne, definitely the difference maker in that one. Just too many turns for Jon in the middle of the game where nothing happened. Was able to put together some kind of game plan to have a chance, but the odds were pretty high for Sam to draw out of it at the end. But great way to kick off our finals.
If this tells us anything about how back and forth and exciting this match is going to be, I don't know what would. It felt like Jon was super dominant early on. Sam pulled things back, and then when Jon seemed almost out of it, a slimmer of hope was able to push himself into a position where Sam had to find those cards. It was all on Jon early on. We saw the Lost Impact take the knockout, going down to 3 prizes, but 3 prize cards is the danger zone when it comes to playing this mirror match. Entering into Roxanne range, Sam pulling the tide into his favor and setting up this win condition where if Sableye wasn't knocked out, game was on board, and if it was, the Giratina would be there to clutch the game out, and Sam brought the Comfey up, didn't have the energy in hand, and top decked it for turn in that Mirage Gate. Excellently played by both players, Sam clutching it out, and this is a nail-biter of a mirror match. Truly, that game felt like a 50-50 game.
Yeah, a couple key moments in that match. Jon did miss the turn 1 attack with the Cramorant going second. That ended up with him not having any open bench spots, limited his options moving forward. So kind of a big ripple effect for missing that early switching card to get into the Cramorant. You spit innocently, get the first knockout. And then just lots of little things happen from there. Sam had a rough start, but battled back, and you can see just how kind of volatile this matchup can be. It's unpredictable what happens as you get later in the game. You can only prepare for what your opponent is going to do so much. Eventually, it's going to come down to, somebody's going to play a Roxanne, an Iono, and you just got to hope that you can piece together a win.
Ooh, double Super Rod in the prizes for Sam. That's not what you want to see. And an interesting choice from Jon here, making Sam go first in game 2. Kyle, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's totally reasonable. If you can get the Cramorant attack turn 1, it's a big advantage, it feels like. So sure, you think on average you probably get the turn 1 attack. And if you don't, well, maybe you just weren't meant to win this tournament.
Didn't want it hard enough. That's usually my takeaway.
Yeah.
Sam's still starting off with a pretty solid first couple of cards in hand. Juicy Flower selecting, putting that escape rope in the lost zone, and Nest Ball can fetch out any of these basic Pokemon, I'm sure we'll see another Comfey coming down into play. Saw Giratina V in the hand. All solid cards to have. Battle VIP Pass, of course, is that big card that jumps out. Of course, you always want to play that on turn 1, get those basic Pokemon into play. But besides that, a lot of it is on Jon going second to really capitalize on sort of that advantage you get in this matchup by taking the first prize.
Yeah, and if you're Jon in this situation, an important thing to do is forget everything that just happened in the first game. It's really easy to get in a situation where you kind of beat yourself up, wonder, what could I have done differently? What if I had done this? If only I'd drawn that. You just have to forget it all and focus, recalibrate for the second game. If you waste your mental energy thinking about what could have happened in the first game, you're not going to be as focused and locked in this one. So it's difficult to do sometimes, especially you're on the stage. It's a high pressure match, but that's what you got to do. Just stay focused on the task at hand.
Another flower selecting here from Sam. What is the choice? What options are available? Is the Jet Energy going to the Lost Zone, valuing keeping Radiant Greninja? It's an interesting card that, once a Path to Peak comes in play, the card is no more besides potentially dealing some attacking damage with the Moonlit Shuriken. But we're going to see that hit the bench, which is really interesting to see that bench right away when you're not really getting any value from it that turn. And I guess it's just huge incentive for Jon to just play Path and shut that out. But here we go, though. Jon does find Colress's Experiment off of this first flower selecting, and yeah, the hand was looking actually really poor besides that.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
This is a pretty big bailout here for Jon. Let's see these 5 cards off this Colress's Experiment. This is where having to grab Comfey as your selections off Colress really come back to hurt you, because you already put a Lost Zone, you already Lost Zoned energy there off that flower selecting. What can you afford to get rid of when it comes to these 5 cards? You want to keep the Sableye, you want to keep the Comfey, and the Escape Rope, sure, that can go. I understand that, but it's kind of choosing which energy you want to get rid of. And for Jon, it's going to be limiting his options at Moonlight Shuriken, getting rid of the Water Energy, keeping those other cards. Keep his pressure up, though. It does have Nest Ball and Jet Energy, so this time it's here for Jon.
I think we got to find a Battle VIP Pass or a Nest Ball or something to get the Cramorant.
I think there's a Nest Ball in hand. I think we're covered here.
Yep, looks like it.
Yeah, but the problem with just benching Cramorant is without having Giratina V in play, it's not going to be able to be evolved into a V-Star until 2 turns from now.
Which that can be okay.
It can be okay. It's just you kind of start, if you don't find these basics off Battle VIP Pass, you have to start valuing Nest Ball more when you're flower selecting things. And we see, even with getting a bunch of basics down turn 1, how tough these flower selectings have been for Jon in this game. So this is the choice now for Jon. Do you value the turn 1 attack and taking prizes, or do you value maybe setting your board up? But it just, as we've been talking about, it's just such an incentive to just take prize cards, put aggression on, and put Sam in a position where next turn he's forced to respond, or Jon's just going to continue pushing his aggression.
Jon could take what might be considered a pretty crazy risk here and grab Radiant Greninja and concealed cards for 2 and try to draw into something good here. I got to imagine we'll just see the Cramorant. One interesting thing, so yeah, Sam doesn't play Manaphy, but knows Jon does play Manaphy, and he knows that a Path to the Peak is going to come down, that Radiant Greninja isn't going to get a lot of value. But what it will do is force Jon to put Manaphy onto the bench. And later on, that can be an easy Sableye target for Lost Mine. So it's kind of like, yeah, this isn't going to do anything, but it's also going to clog up your bench when you put down Manaphy. So it's kind of a wash. And I end up with a Pokemon with 130 HP. Also, if you Escape Rope, it gives me something to promote that can take a hit from Cramorant. But no attack from Jon 2 games in a row on turn 1.
Yeah, grabbing the Giratina V instead of the Sableye, and Sam starting things off right away with the Colress's Experiment. Looking at 5 cards. Easy choice to throw away the Path to the Peak. Kind of want to keep the Colress and the Giratina. I think the choice here for Sam, you've already got rid of one of those Jet Energy. I mean, Colress, you don't necessarily need it. You have it in hand, but you've always got to consider Roxanne, and leaving yourself with as many good draws to have as possible is always a plus.
Yeah, each one of these decisions off of Colress's Experiment, flower selecting, Both players seem like they're in agony every time, and I think it just sums up trying to play this deck, trying to figure out what the best lines of plays are.
Yeah, just sit here playing Miraidon. I'm just grabbing my Pokemon and looking at my 5 cards.
Play
I'm
my
amping
generator.
playing Ampy very much, and my opponent's out here.
Did I hit lightning energy?
Making
No.
calculate-
Okay, on to the next game.
Rare Candy Charizard, as Azul said.
Yeah.
So you can kind of tell a little bit about these players by their deck choice. And maybe some of them enjoy thinking a little bit harder. Maybe some, it's really they'll do whatever it takes to get this win, especially when they're so close. It's paying off for them well. We'll see. Boss's Order is a super powerful card in this matchup. It's the Lost Zone. So Sam really valuing some other pieces. And finally, an easy choice will be Battle VIP Pass going away. Does get that second Giratina and the Cramorant on Sam's side. So even though Jon went second, Sam is still the first one to strike in Game 2, taking a prize card on this Comfey, removing this Jet Energy out of play as well. And Jon's in a situation where this hand is not doing a lot for him. Can't play this Roxanne. You've got a few V-Star, but oh, and this is another tough choice for Jon. This
Every single one.
This Manaphy is coming up at the worst possible times. And I think Jon might have to make a decision here on what he cares about more. Does he care about going in with Giratina V and maybe Abyss Seeking? I don't know if there's any other option for him. I think that's the biggest issue. I mean, look at this hand. It's double Giratina V-Star, 2 Grass Energy, 2 supporters that don't do anything, and a switch. So if you're Jon, what do you even want to accomplish this turn? If you don't do anything, Cramorant's just going to take another prize card.
Yeah, might have to Abyss Seeking. One thing to call out, so Jon plays 3 Water Energy. 1 is in the Lost Zone, 1 is actually in the prize cards as well. So he will not be able to use Radiant Greninja as an attacker. So Sam, showing why maybe you don't have to play Manaphy in this matchup.
And just a pass, protecting that Comfey. It's all Jon needs to keep this hand alive. Manaphy in play will guarantee the Comfey is safe. Sam is benched out, and this is just a tough choice. I mean, it's got to be Manaphy here, right? You've got to give that one prize up. You spent so hard to save it, right? You got rid of that Jet Energy. You will be able to bring it back with something like Super Rod later on. So we do see another Battle VIP Pass hitting the Lost Zone, and Sam has hit that first checkpoint. 7 cards in the Lost Zone means Mirage Gate is turned on. There is also a Giratina V-Star in hand, so Sam will just go ahead and play this Mirage Gate, get some of these energy cards out, even considering grabbing the Water Energy out of the deck to just put on one of these Giratina Vs so that it's an easy choice to throw away later on with the Lost Impact attack. But Sam is in full control here in game number 2.
Sure seems like it. I mean, if you're Jon, you're just trying to figure out where's the opening? Where can I come back in this one? And it looks pretty bleak because it's only 5 cards in the Lost Zone. His hand looks horrendous. You're still not even in range where you can use Roxanne. But is there some kind of opportunity
Hold
for
on.
Sam to do? Oh, boy.
I think Sam has a Boss's Orders in hand, and he does. Can bring up this Giratina V-Star, the only one in play for Jon. And even though he's entering Roxanne range, why does it matter if you're just taking the only threat off Jon's board? Jon left with nothing but just a Comfey in play, and that Course's Experiment would have been a great card the previous turn to help Jon get set up, but with Roxanne being alive, I mean, that's the only card you've got to play at this point. And so, while it's Jon playing the first Roxanne in this matchup, the big difference is his board is nowhere near what Sam's board looked like when Sam got Roxanne in game 1.
Yeah, and there's just not enough cards in the Lost Zone to respond with a big turn. Now, it's not over by any means. Sam is going to be stuck with the Giratina V-Star in the active with just 1 energy. There's a chance, you could just draw into some bad cards here and not do anything for a little bit. And that's what Jon has to hope for in this situation. We're still going to need a big turn from Jon. He needs to start getting something set up here, whether that's getting down, a new Giratina V, set up an attacker. I don't know. He needs something here. But at this point, you just kind of got to hope that your opponent draws some bad cards.
And another just...
or maybe you can just continue to keep putting your good cards in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, no Giratina V is the big thing that Jon is unable to get down. Not even something like I mean, Cramorant wouldn't even do anything here. There's no reason to damage this Giratina V-Star, and it's just going to be a pass back over to Sam. Put on 2 cards. What are the 2 cards in hand?
See a counter catcher, a nest ball, and looks like a grass energy. So will Sam retreat? Yeah. Just going to go into the Cramorant, spit innocently. Okay. That does signal that his hand is pretty weak. So if Jon can finally respond with something here, maybe, just maybe, there's an opening.
Finally, a nice, easy choice here off of this Colress's Experiment. Battle VIP pass, and Comfey leaving play.
I feel like it's got to be Sableye carrying Jon at this point, right?
I guess you have to, like, Sableye knock out the Cramorant just like Sam did in that first game, and then just hope your opponent doesn't have a Sableye of their own or a way to bring back this Cramorant.
Pair it with a counter catcher, bring up Giratina V-Star again. Put your opponent in an awkward position. One thing to note, Giratina V-Star, since it's not a basic Pokemon, you can't use Switch Cart to move it out of the active spot.
And we do see that Escape Rope is in the Lost Zone, so there's only the 1 copy of...
I think 1 was played as well, right?
Yeah, and I think there's only 1 copy of switching this deck for Sam, so...
There's Jet Energy, of course, to get out of there, but...
Yeah. Options are limited for sure. We've already seen a few hit play. Here we go for Jon. Just going to get these energy cards out of play. See the Mirage Gate, bring the energy onto Giratina V, and this is it for Jon. Jon's got to put together some sort of way to climb back in this game. Sam is out of boss's orders. That is something to note. We did see 1 put in the Lost Zone and 1 put into the discard pile. So I don't think there's a way for him to close the game out this turn, but it's just dealing with the current threat. Option number 1 is Sableye. And I think the choice here for Jon is, do you value using this counter catcher aggressively? And I think you have to, like you said, Kyle. Bringing Giratina V-Star up and just hoping it sticks for long enough in the active spot.
And we do see, a Mirage Gate for Sam in hand, along with the Psychic Energy. But how much energy is left in the deck?
There's only 1 Psychic Energy.
Okay. There's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance, Kyle.
That is what I said, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the question here for Sam is, it's so tough. Do you burn this Mirage Gate and attach for turn just to retreat into Comfey and see some more cards?
It's a tough choice. I think it depends on how many Mirage Gates you have left. I mean, if you can draw into a Colress's Experiment and kind of fill your hand back up, that feels like a pretty good situation to be in. But, I mean, that's another Mirage Gate down. That's another energy down. Sam did have, both Super Rod prized to start this game. I think it's probably gotten both of them at this point.
Yeah, Pokegear and Grass Energy are the last 2 prizes. So it's going to be that 1 Psychic Energy put onto this active Giratina V-Star. So I think down to just 2 Mirage Gate left in the deck. Does still have those options available for later on, and both Super Rod are still there. There it is. Double Psychic Energy retreated, so no more Psychic Energy in the deck. Here we go, 2 cards out Flower Selecting. Was this trade-off worth it? Quick send of the Lost Zone Battle VIP Pass, and it is the Colress's Experiment. So a huge risk for Sam, paying off dividends. And look at these cards, too. Finds Jet Energy, some...
Well, the Mirage Gates don't do anything.
Well, not right now, they don't, but Jet Energy can allow you to... I mean, you can't play that this turn. You've already played the Psychic Energy, so...
I mean, that's a good setup for next turn, but nothing's going to happen this turn. Jon's going to get, I think... Oh, no, there was already a touch.
Yeah. We're just going to see the pass, so Jon does get an extra turn. And my question is, does Jon have a way to maybe play another Roxanne? Does find a second one, and I think at this point, with the Water Energy in the Lost Zone and the Water Energy on this Giratina V, we will see Radiant Greninja go to the Lost Zone. There is an attachment for turn. We could see this Giratina V-Star get that Psychic Energy attached. I think that's a great way to just threaten a lot of damage next turn.
Yeah, I feel like you might as well attach that.
Yeah. I think the question here for Jon, though, is how do you want to spread this damage? Take a knockout on either of these Comfey, and then do you want to just dump the rest on the bench? Do you want to put some damage counters on Radiant Greninja so it can be knocked out by Cramorant at some point? So let's see what the choice is.
Yeah, it's 6 there. Where does the other 6 go? This game all of a sudden got pretty close. Now, Sam did kind of accidentally reveal, does have a jet energy. So Jon knows he's not completely safe, but a path to the peak is the draw for the turn. That's another useless card. Flower selecting, let's see what it finds. Doesn't look very happy.
Oh, it's a jet energy and a Roxanne. I feel like you've got to just get rid of the jet energy. I mean, the good thing is, the scary part here for Jon, though, is if Jon wants to use Sableye again, not only will he put himself in Roxanne range, but he's going to go to odd prize cards, and we see that having odd prizes in this matchup is just tough.
Abyss Seeking. Is Jon about to make a massive comeback here? Sam's not out of it yet, but we know that Jon held on to a Roxanne. If he can just Star Requiem this turn, just lost impact the last Giratina VSTAR. I mean, he's going to have to find a boss's orders.
Yeah.
Jon could take a slower approach. Play the Roxanne, use Lost Mine, and you don't have to take a prize card here. You can Lost Mine and kind of set up the Greninja and the Comfey for a future turn. There's lots of different ways to go about this. This is the extremely tricky moment.
Yeah, there's so many options, because if you Lost Mine, then you leave the jet energy on the Giratina V, so then it's pretty much like an extra turn, right, to just use Abyss Seeking and look at 4 cards. So here we go, Psychic Energy down. We're playing Roxanne number 2. We'll see if what held true in game 1, the first player to play Roxanne winning the match. So Jon playing the second copy, players shuffling in. Jon will find 6 cards, 2 cards for Sam. What do these cards warrant? Is there anything like boss's orders for Jon on the following turn? Not sure there's much. There is a Super Rod, but there's no basic energy in the discard pile, so that's not an option. Can put 1 in the discard pile by retreating this Sableye. So
I feel like you just kind of got to go for it.
Yeah.
Use the Star Requiem, take a knockout, go down to 2 prize cards. I mean, your opponent's going to go down to 2 cards. They've already used a Mirage Gate, and you saw they only got 1 energy. You see the energy in the Lost Zone. There's a bunch in the discard pile. The combination of cards your opponent would need to beat you on the following turn is so high.
Yeah,
I feel like you just press your advantage here and hope for the best.
And you're going to have so many ways to win next turn, because with that 5 damage counters in the Comfey, if your opponent wants to use multiple flower selectings, then you can always just retreat into your Sableye and finish the game off with 2 prize cards with Lost Mine. So we'll see if Jon maybe wants to retreat and then reuse a Mirage Gate to put this energy on the Sableye, so that if Sam finds a Roxanne, then that's a potential option. So
Star Requiem down to 2 prize cards for Jon. He was way behind in this game, but now things have gotten close, and another Chorus's Experiment is found, but also a Pokegear.
So this is interesting. I feel like you don't want to see supporter cards off of these 5 cards for Sam if you can just...
Well, do you dig for the Roxanne?
Well, that's true. I think it's good to play this regardless, whether or not you're playing Chorus or not, because you just want to take supporter cards out. 7 cards. Do we see the Roxanne? No, but there is another Chorus's Experiment. And here we go. If Sam can find a combination of an energy card, Mirage Gate, and a Super Rod, Star Requiem can be used over on Sam's side. Has yet to use that VSTAR power. And those will be the last 2 prize cards for Sam, and he will become a regional champion.
Flower selecting going to be the first choice. Do we see anything relevant in these 2 cards?
And yeah, you really can't bench this Comfey, because you're just inviting a Sableye to come in. This is going to be the counter catcher. And so this is it. This is what it comes down to. 5 cards off Chorus's Experiment. Do we see a way for this Giratina VSTAR to attack? There's Super Rod, but no Mirage Gate in this hand.
Can go fishing, but he can't go find it.
Well put, well put. So I think the question here for Sam is, yeah, you don't even want to bench the Comfey because you can't retreat into it. So we're just going to see Super Rod get played. This can put the energy cards back into the deck if we see something like Iono come down. It's just going to be, actually Jon is not playing any copies of Iono. An interesting choice in this list. Both players actually not playing any copies of Iono, so it's just going to be the Roxanne in terms of disruption, bringing back the energy that Giratina VSTAR needs to attack.
Yeah, and this is where it's going to get weird. I mean, if you're Jon, you can take a 1 prize knockout, but then you give your opponent access to counter catcher. Obviously, if Jon draws boss's orders, the game ends immediately. But there's still some tough decisions ahead for both of these players.
It's a cat and mouse game, back and forth. You see Giratina V go down, and Jon does not have the boss's orders.
Yeah,
you
heard
see just
Sam ask, do you have the boss? Jon said no.
how many are left in deck? There's one copy of boss's orders.
There's not even a basic.
This is just tough for Jon. Now, a cool play that Jon can do is Jon can use Lost Mine this turn and not take any prize cards and just set damage up on this Greninja and Comfey so that you're not activating Counter Catcher and you're leaving a one prize Pokemon in the active spot. And I think that's your best bet here if you're Jon. Now, of course, if you can dig a little bit before that and give yourself the option to find boss, it's all in your favor. But wow, what a back and forth series this has been so far. A game that 3 turns ago, if you told me Jon still had a shot, I wouldn't have believed you.
You never know what can happen in these Giratina VSTAR mirror matches. The end of the game is just so tricky. Now, if Jon has a way to switch out in this situation, I have to wonder if it's better to just go with flower selecting, try to build up your hand, and try to just eventually draw into the boss's orders to win. You can put on some pressure with the Lost Mine. But I don't know. Is it better to just sit there and force your opponent to do something?
I think a small misplay there from Jon. If Jon decided to retreat before playing that Super Rod, could have brought back an additional 2 energy cards to just have those as resources in the deck. But by using this Super Rod, only bringing back 1 energy. So, I mean, it still doesn't really make a huge difference because the Giratina retreats, and as long as there's 1 more energy attachment, it's fine. But I'm not sure it's going to make too big of a difference. But as sort of Azul said, 1 small micro decision, 1 small error, and that could cost the game. So here we go. Pokegear, 7 cards. Is there boss?
Oh.
And there is a boss's orders that can bring up Giratina V or VSTAR, take the knockout, and we're going to a game 3 here, Kyle.
Jon Eng fighting for his tournament life here in the finals. Claws all the way back. A game where he was so far behind and looked like he had very little chance. But Roxanne, once again, is the game changer. And nobody with a lead is safe, Ethan.
Well, in game 1, Sam was the first player to play Roxanne. In game 2, Jon was the first player to play Roxanne. Is that the key of the first person to put their opponent on the back foot, make them stumble a little bit, maybe overextend some resources like Sam did at that game number 1? I mean, the early game was just all Sam, right? After Giratina VSTAR, Jon had to make a desperate play here of just bringing this Giratina VSTAR up into the active with boss's orders. And I mean, the Cramorant took the knockout, but Jon was ready, had the Sableye, return knocked out this Pokemon, and it was just turn after turn of Sam just not having the pieces necessary to put on attacks or get these last 2 prize cards. Was so close to the finish line, but just out of those resources necessary.
Yeah, and just based on how this match has gone so far, the key to winning the matchup is just to draw poorly at the beginning. And then late in the game, you'll draw everything you need, and your opponent will, at any point in the match, somebody has to be drawing poorly, so you want to be the one to draw bad first.
And this was it here. 7 cards off Pokegear and found the boss's orders. That was one of the craziest comebacks I've ever seen on stream, let alone in the finals here of Portland Regionals.
Yeah, and it was very easy at any point for Jon to just get super frustrated, give up, but no. Kept battling through, kept trying to find any possible way to win the match, and that's why you do it. That's why you stick in there and try to take any opportunity your opponent gives you. Sometimes it works out. And now we have 1 game to decide it all here in Portland. The winner of this final single game will be champion.
We have been treated to some excellent finals here so far in the last month. What a great way to kick off the new year. Excellent Pokemon TCG. Sam will be going second this game. We'll have to see what everything looks like. The prize cards, opening hands, everything counts in this winner-take-all final match.
Can't wait.
2 Colress in the prizes, 2 Giratina V.
Well, we had 2 good games, Ethan.
These are bad for both of these players.
Oh, the 2 Giratina V.
And a big top deck there for Jon finds Battle VIP Pass on the top. I mean, he's going to be treated to some pretty bad news here that the remaining Giratina V are unavailable, but this is exactly exactly what you want to see here in this
I'm
final
not even
game
going
for
to try
Jon.
to figure out what's going to happen next.
Look at Jon's reaction. He's like, are you kidding me, man? Is this how it's going to go down? What a finals for the ages here, Kyle.
Yep. They say keep Portland weird, and we certainly are. Okay, now if you're Jon, yep, you got to remain flexible. Figure out what can you do here. There's only one Giratina V. If Jon doesn't know that those other two Giratina V are the top 2 prize cards, he'll likely never see them this game. And there's no Hisuian Heavy Ball in the deck list to fetch those out. So this might be a leaner game plan. Maybe Radiant Greninja will finally come into play as an attacker. I don't know. This is one of those situations where you find out what's prized. You go, okay, this has got to be a different game plan. What can I do?
It's all right.
Starting things out pretty solid. Does have the switch cart. Here we go. Flower selecting.
Oh, Battle VIP pass.
Yeah, but you'd have to pitch away a super rod, and Jon now knows that with those
fine.
Giratina, it's fine. Yeah, I also want to throw my last game in the regional championships here as well.
I mean, it depends on what your hand is. If you can't play the game, then
Jon's Comfey may be the most evil Comfey I've ever seen in the Giratina. It's just giving him puzzle after puzzle in terms of bad cards, or good cards rather, that need to be thrown away to the lost zone. This is just the duality of Comfey between both of these players. I don't even know what you do here if you're Jon. Do you really have to get rid of this super rod and decides to? I mean, the Battle VIP Pass is a strong card. Is it stronger than attacking with Giratina VSTAR for the rest of the game? I mean, you still got one copy left, but you got to find it.
well, Jon just grabbing another Comfey and the Mana Fee straight away. I feel like this may be a little bit like preemptive. You know, you don't need to go for it until your opponent is able to threaten Radiant Greninja. And, you know, we're, I think, past the days where people are getting turn 1 Mirage Gates and things like that.
It's so bad, too, because the 2 Giratina V prize didn't
And
even
the
make me realize
Cramorant.
that Cramorant is also in the prizes. So Jon can't even grab Cramorant out either to attack.
Yeah, that's why I think Jon might need to go for the Radiant Greninja here.
No way,
And of
Sam
course.
opened one of his 2 Colress's Experiment in the deck with 2 being prized. And that is an incredible opening. And finds the last Colress's Experiment in these 5 cards. Are you kidding me?
Let's hope he doesn't put that one in the lost zone. He hasn't had a chance to search his deck yet.
He doesn't know. I mean, look at how many switching cards are in this hand. What can you afford to get rid of? I mean, the
Path to the Peak is the first one that goes.
yeah, of course. But it's escape rope or
Right?
switch cart.
Right?
Hopefully. Don't do this to us, Sam, please. Don't do this to us.
Oh, no.
Was he thinking about it? Wait,
What was
which
it?
one? Oh, no, he kept the Colress.
Okay.
Yeah, but the big problem here is there's no basic Pokemon in this hand. Just has to sit here with this
Hold
active
on.
and Abyss Seeking. What kind
Hold
of a
on.
game 3 is this?
Jon went aggressive and put 3 cards in the lost zone on the first turn. I mean, he might only need 1 Giratina V. If he can power up Giratina V-Star with a Mirage Gate, this game's over.
Mirage Gate. Oh, that might be there. Mirage Gate, Jet Energy. If he can flower selecting 2 times and still have the energy cards needed, this
Got
could
a switch
be,
too, yeah.
It has the Jet Energy and switch. So, Jon, keeping his tempo.
Does he have the Giratina V-Star in hand?
He does. He has the Giratina V-Star.
Is this how it all ends?
Is this how we're going to end this tournament?
Wait.
Oh, that's so awkward,
Does
though.
he have any Psychic left in his deck?
I don't know if he does.
Oh, this is not going to end easily, is it?
Switch is going to bring this Comfey. Let's see if the energies are here. No energy cards off of this, so Jon will check the deck with his Nest Ball. Let's see how many energy cards are
Okay,
there.
there's the
Psychic,
grass.
water, grass, all the pieces are there.
This is
Jet
the moment.
Energy.
Jon Eng has been working for so long to get that big win, and here it is, Mirage Gate, gonna power up Giratina V-Star, and Jon Eng is the Portland Regional Champion.
What an incredible finish. He's finally done it after being so close for so long. In a crazy comeback in Game 2, Jon Eng has finally taken home a tournament and is your regional champion in Portland, Oregon.
Wow, what
He
can
can't
you
even
say
believe
about that?
it. He can't even believe it.
I can't either.
I
mean,
can't either.
That might be the most improbable win we've ever seen. From completely out of it to a turn 2 win in the 3rd game. Congratulations to Jon. Never gave up. I mean,